Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Mountain Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for another episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And this is season, I believe it's 15. Hold on. Let's get this. Whoop! I already knew this was gonna happen. I'm leaving everything in because I am not starting this video over again. Absolutely not. Hold on, there we go. Got it. This is episode 11. This is called The Price of Divorce. And before we get into this review, this is not going to take, I promise you this review is not going to be very long. I feel bad because I'm just like, wow, I stand corrected. You know how last week I was like, this is going to be a slow burn. This episode was another filler. And it just seems like that is the season. There's just a lot of filler episodes for me. And also, too, there's just a lot of regurgitating the same conversations over and over again. So with this episode and this review, I am going to do it slightly differently this time. I think I'm just going to review it based off of the ladies. So I'm just going to kind of go one by one with the ladies. And then that's going to be the review because honestly, I was bored. I was honestly really bored watching this. And I hate that's how I felt, but that is where I was at with it. I'm like, I am bored to tears. I don't even know what was the point of this episode. I'm just kind of like, I feel like no one really has anything going on. The other thing I kind of want to bring up as well with this is that, let's talk a little bit about I forgot what I was going to get at. I feel like, I guess what I was going to get at is that just a lot of the women don't have anything going on. And that's kind of what's boring me about this episode and kind of what's been going on with the season. But yeah, so that's kind of the other thing I'm kind of taking away from this. Oh, and also too, the other thing I wanted to mention is without Amanda, I feel like there's no episode. And Amanda wasn't really on this episode. So it was really giving snooze fest. So without further ado, let me get into the episodes. And yeah, and by the way, my season was right. I was right about season 15. Okay, so let's kind of go on. I'm going to go in order with the ladies. And we'll talk about really what these ladies don't have going on. Because none of them have anything going on. And so we'll go one by one with that. And we'll go from there. Because I feel like otherwise, this is just going to be a non-starter when it comes to this review. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with Amanda. Amanda was barely in this episode, as I mentioned. She was just really in the montage, and it was at the very beginning of the episode, and she was with her daughter, and they were, I think they were doing each other's nails, and she was talking to her daughter about her youngest daughter being the flower girl, and that was kind of it, and that's all we saw of Amanda. So that was really it when it came to Amanda, this episode. So we'll move on from that and let's get into Bose and her situation, which to me, honestly, out of everyone in this episode, it was the most WTF of it all, because look, I don't know what it is about her and Keely that I just don't believe or just am confused about. But just something with it has never been right to me this whole entire time. And this episode alone and the conversation that they had, I was confused. So number one, what the takeaway that I got this episode, Keely still lives in San Diego. So they took a 2-hour drive to San Diego to see Keely. Her and her daughter actually drove, which is good because she needs more practice driving because we found out, she got her driver's license or whatever. And so they're having this adult conversation around her daughter. That's the other thing that was kind of weird to me. Why are we having this type of conversation around a 16-year-old? It's weird. And also, too, some of the conversations they're having, why are we just now having this conversation? That's kind of what I was getting at. So one of the things they talked about was, so Rose, to me, there's something about, she just, is she a pick me? I'm just so confused. I don't understand what this is. And in the comments, let me know if I'm off. Maybe I don't understand. I don't know, but I'm just so confused by her behavior as a whole when it comes to this situation. So one of the things that kind of came about with this conversation, with her daughter being there, by the way, which honestly, I don't think they should be having a talk about their relationship in front of a child, because she still is a child. Like, she's 16. She's like not an adult yet. So that was weird, number one. Number two, the first thing that they're talking about the embryos and all that, which I get. Bo's brought that up to her daughter before too. And that is something she probably should bring up, because, you know, she is trying to have another child. But what I'm not understanding is, why are we doing this when we're almost 50? And he's basically 50 too. So it's just kind of like, I don't get that. And so she still is hanging on to the fact of, if this doesn't happen, because they're going to try to do a second retrieval, what will this mean? Will he leave her? Like, she's terrified about the whole situation. And you know what's also getting me? All this is happening before a ring, before any form of a long-term commitment. So we're going to bring a child into the world without a long-term commitment. And then he basically reassures her, says all the right things, because of course he's going to do that. And then he's like, my concern is what will happen if I didn't have a job anymore. That was really weird that was kind of brought up out of nowhere. And also too, we're having the conversation of hard times after we're trying to bring a child into the world. Also too, shouldn't we have had this hard time conversation at the third date? I mean, and maybe I'm just off. I don't know. Because, you know, I feel like, honestly, when it comes to dating, especially when you're dating and you're older, you get these hard conversations out of the way immediately before you get really serious. Like, what happens if I'm down and out? What is that? Like, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I've literally had this conversation already with someone I'm seeing right now. And we had it, like, honestly, we had the second date. We didn't even waste any time. Like, our whole thing is, we're not young, we're not getting any younger. Let's not waste any time. Let's get the hard conversations out of the way. The things that we think are going to be deal breakers, let's talk about it. Because if we're not compatible already and we can't even have these conversations now, then what are we doing? That's literally kind of, and maybe that's what I'm looking at right here. I'm like, what are they doing here? What are they doing? Am I the only one that feels that way? Anyway, so besides this situation with Bose did briefly also talk to Kyle about Dorit, because Bose called Kyle while they were in the Hamptons still. Because Dorit, Kyle, and Rachel, this whole entire episode was them in the Hamptons still. And it seems like a fun trip, honestly, but it's not that entertaining to watch. I'll be honest. I feel like, I don't know, it just wasn't entertaining to watch. There was a little bit of a plot with it because of Dorit, but if Dorit wasn't there, it would be very boring. Oh, now I remember the other thing I was going to bring up when it comes to Rachel. Rachel, what my conclusion that I've kind of decided and kind of figured out about Rachel is, as much as I like her on this show, as much as like I've been looking forward to seeing her on this show, she fits in almost too much. Like, almost like old guard too much. You know, just like how Kyle really needs a break. I feel the same way about her, and she just got here. So it's really confusing for me. But we'll get more into that when we talk about Rachel and her situation. But yeah, Bose did talk to Kyle briefly. And while we're there, let's move on and talk about Kyle, but we'll just combine the conversation that Bose and Kyle had with each other, and we'll talk more about Kyle as a whole. Okay, so I think it was like the day before the last day. Kyle actually was talking to her daughter originally over the phone, Portia, and then from there, then Bose FaceTimed and called her. And Bose is just trying to really kind of figure out how they're doing and all that. And Kyle is the one who bring up what Dorit got going on. And what Dorit got going on is she says that she's being more late than usual, which to me, I don't know if I believe that. I feel like Dorit has always been late. That's like been her whole entire shtick this whole entire time on the show. Like, respectfully, people who are late all the time, they're just usually late all the time for the most part. So I don't know what that is. So that was brought up, and then Kyle kind of made it clear that she's like, it's not like her being late, like with the fashions and everything. It's more or less that she's kind of scatterbrained and she just kind of is flustered. And it's like, Kyle, and this is what gets on my nerves about Kyle. She's so judgmental. And she claims that Dorit is so in her own world, but you being as judgmental as you are, that's you being in your own world being judgmental. I feel like in Kyle's world, divorces should go, or separations should go just like hers. And if it's not, she doesn't understand it. But at the same time, I will say this, and I've been said before, I don't think Dorit's telling the whole truth when it comes to her and PK. That is extremely clear. I kind of don't believe it all the way. I believe a lot of it, though, but I don't believe all of it. I think she's putting just a little extra sauce on it. But apparently Kyle kind of was talking to Bose about how she spent too much money. We'll get into what Dorit was doing in this episode, because I feel like we could just talk about, honestly, let's just talk about them two together, because I feel like Dorit doesn't really have a storyline without Kyle. And I mean, I feel like Kyle is making Dorit's storyline more interesting because of Kyle being kind of the antithesis of it all. And Kyle really has nothing going on. Kyle's storyline is Dorit. So let's just talk about them both together. Yeah, originally I wasn't going to do that, but anyway, so Kyle's talking to Bose about Dorit's erratic behavior, because according to her, her behavior is erratic. But all I'm seeing is this is Dorit. I'll be honest, everything that Kyle's saying is like erratic about Dorit. I'm just like, how is this different from how Dorit normally is? Dorit is spending all this money. She doesn't know where the money's coming from, and she's still doing that. That hasn't changed. She keeps saying that she's not spending as much money, but yet all I see is she's spending money, because they ended up going shopping in the Hamptons, and she spent like almost $5,000, $4,500. One more thing I forgot to mention. When Dorit was shopping, her card was declining. They tried to make a thing out of it, and hopefully isn't really a thing. Because I do believe Dorit when she sells a fraud alert, because what it looked like she was using her bank card, and she was getting in. It didn't go through because she probably didn't tell them that she was out of town. So she ended up using another card, and she ended up paying for her stuff. But I forgot to mention that tidbit just in case anyone cares. But like, to me, it was a nothing burger. That's why I didn't bring it up originally. But I was like, I feel like someone's gonna say something about it, so let me bring it up anyway. $1,000, $4,500. At a store. Now, is that a lot of money for people who are not like, for those who do not live in Beverly Hills? Yeah. I can't imagine spending that kind of money at a store. Is that expensive from someone who lives in Beverly Hills? No. It actually isn't. What really would have given me more pause is, where did she get the money to buy the Hermes bag? Because the Hermes bag was more expensive than what she was doing at this store. The store was like a nothing burger to me. she put some money down, but it really wasn't that crazy. But I do understand their point to a certain degree of she's literally going through a divorce and she doesn't even, according to her, she doesn't know where the money's coming from. She doesn't understand the finances and she doesn't even know if she has money or doesn't have money. So yeah, that is kind of a choice, an odd choice to spend any money on camera. But did she spend too much money? Not really. Honestly, it should have been questioned with the bag. But Bose was pretty much kind of giving, Dorit the benefit of the doubt. But she also wasn't giving her too much benefit of the doubt because she wanted Kyle to keep talking. Because preview for next episode, you already know what's going to happen. Bose is going to run and tell that. Like, Bose ain't really friends with Kyle. And also, Kyle still is not doing what Bose is expecting of her, which is actually opening up more about her. Instead, Kyle's opening up to Bose more about Dorit and talking about Dorit to her. And she's trying to spin it to make it sound like she's concerned. But to me, it's not giving that. It's giving she's being judgmental. And she was doing the same thing. Kyle was doing the same thing even when it came to Rachel's situation. Now, we'll get into Rachel's situation a little bit more because towards the end, when she was going more into the stories of it all, I was like, girl. But it's different for me. I'm friends with these people. I could judge all I want to. But Kyle's like, she's supposed to be friends with these women, but she's judging them as they're sharing like intimate details about their situations. Yeah, so we'll leave that there. So let me see, who should we talk about next? So we talk about Dorit a little bit about how she went shopping, and also too a little bit in this episode, she did actually call Phoenix, her daughter, FaceTimed her, and we find out that her and PK are doing well when it comes to the co-parenting this time around because he is there watching the kids. And we do get a little bit of appearance from PK in this episode. But Dorit don't really see for PK, but she's trying to, keep a brave face in front of her children. And in the confessional, she's just like literally cussing out PK. Which, honestly, is giving Kyle and Amanda a right. I don't think that's a good idea because, like, you're in the middle of a divorce. Like, you should probably play nice until you, like, get done with the divorce. And then you could actually really then express how you feel. But neither here nor there. Just a side note. But that's besides that. There's a lot of complaints about Dorit being late because she was also late when it came to going to see Rachel's parents because Rachel's family did come to the house and they kind of broke bread and all that. And Kyle, yet again, was being judgmental about that. She's like, she's being so rude, which honestly, she's actually not wrong. I agreed with her with that. It was rude, very rude, because she couldn't figure out her outfit. So she's making the parents wait and the family wait. And they literally are not leaving the house. They're just like at the house. So that was weird. But I mean, let's be so for real. They're on camera. So I think that's part of it too. But still, what Kyle's complaining about is what Dorit has always been. So that's the part that I'm just kind of like, but Dorit's always been this way. So why are we trying to now act like she's different than how she was before? I feel like this has always been Dorit. But that's kind of the other thing that went on with Dorit. I'm kind of done talking about Kyle and Dorit because they're kind of getting on my nerves. So I'm going to take a break before I go back to talking about Rachel. Let's talk about Erica, and then we'll also talk about Sutton and a little bit about Jennifer Tilly. And then we'll go back to talking about Rachel towards the end. And that'll be the review because, again, this was a filler episode. Not much has happened here. Me talking is making it, the way I'm talking is making it a longer episode than it really needs to be and longer review than it really needs to be. Anyway, let's move on. So Erica, in this episode, she does meet up with Dr. Jen, and she vents about how she's feeling, and she feels lost. And she feels defeated still. A lot of it, though, she was complaining a lot about the lawsuits because she has a $24 million lawsuit that she's fighting, and also $10 million tax lien that she's dealing with too. So she was venting about that, but then she really started breaking down and crying when she started talking more about the domestic violence of it all. And, she wasn't sure if it was the right move for her to finally open up about it. And her doctor's like, yeah, no, this is the first step for you to move forward. Because one thing I've noticed about whether you like Erica or not, because I don't really care for Erica, but there's just something about her that I can't completely dislike. I don't know what it is. I think it's because when you hear her stories and everything that's going on with her, even when it comes to the time of it all and the victims of it all, because that wasn't, let's be so for real, that wasn't okay. But at the same time, I kind of see where she's coming from, because a lot of her life, and still to this day, is she's someone who lives in survival mode at all times. So her mentality, her whole entire life is get how you live. Kind of like a stripper. And I mean, she is a retired stripper. So, I mean, are we surprised that she would have that kind of gutter mentality of get how you live? And so when you have that kind of mentality, you're not thinking about others like that. You're just thinking about surviving. And the thing is, though, it's a really sad reality to be feeling and living that way when you're in your 50s, though. That's one of those things where you hope at some point in time you would evolve your way of thinking. But I feel like she's a case of someone who never has. She was kept for a long time, and with this old man, who actually turned out to be a whole entire scammer. And now she's paying the price for that. The whole entire time she kept thinking that she hit rock bottom because everything that happened with her now ex-husband. But really, that wasn't really her hitting rock bottom, because, of what happened. But you know what? I actually listened to an interview kind of recently, and it made me change my mind just a little bit when it comes to the Erica situation. And it was a Carlos King interview with Lisa Ray. And she's like, these rich men are a lot like your doughboys. You're not going to know really what's going on and how they really make their money. Especially if you're a kept woman. You're not going to really know. So it kind of makes me think that I don't think Erica really knew. For a while, because of the way she reacted on the show, it gave that she knew. But looking back, I really don't think she knew how this man was making the money and getting the money. I think she was just someone who was like, okay, I got money. She just wasn't going to question it. And I feel like, because in most people's world, would you question how your spouse would be making money? Especially if you're someone who's in survival mode? The answer is no. You're going to be like, you're going to assume, I feel like she assumed that the money was legit. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So, but yeah. And honestly, when it comes to people with money, let's be so for real. Especially the men who are almost billionaires. None of that money is ethical money. So that's kind of the other thing that kind of makes me change my mind a little bit when it comes to the Amanda situation. Not the Amanda, the Erica and Tom situation. So when I was viewing this scene, I actually did somewhat feel for her. Not too much, but I did feel for her, because I tried to put myself in her shoes of like assuming that she didn't know what was going on. And now, would you want to return that money? Yeah, on paper, that sounds like something that you should do. But again, if you're someone who's in survival mode, would you really want to do that? The answer is no. So I think that is what we're seeing here. And it sucks. And yeah, basically Erica's like, I'm lost. I don't even know what to do. Like, she's trying to keep putting her best foot forward, but then just another thing happens. And she said she got extra emotional this week because she, finally did open up about the DV. And she's just like, I feel like just life is piling up on her. And that's kind of what's interesting. But at the same time, she's living a very fulfilling life all at the same time. But two things can always be true. You could be living a fulfilling life, but you're also going through your own personal hell at the same time. And it's up to her to figure out her own happiness. But that's kind of what really happened with Erica. Erica was another scene in this episode that was interesting. Really, Bose and Erica were really the only two people this episode to me that was interesting. Everyone else, I was just kind of like, it's just kind of there. Anyway, let's get into Sutton and we'll move on. Okay, so with Sutton, she meets up with Jennifer Tilly and they are at Oceanside, and Sutton is just stuck in reminiscent land. And what's getting me about this is the annulment, I guess, is getting to Sutton now, like very delayed, but now is getting to her. And we also find out, which I don't think we knew this, but if we did, let me know in the comments. Apparently, Christian left Sutton for her best friend. And the way Sutton found out was through her son. Neither of them told her. And so that's who Christian, her ex-husband, is dating now, is her former best friend. The way that was brushed under the rug for years. I guess I never understood why Sutton couldn't let this relationship go, but now that makes a lot more sense. But at the same time, for me, it's a little too late because I don't care about Sutton anymore. So this whole entire conversation, all this with her and Jennifer Tilly, I'm happy to see Jennifer Tilly, but I'm just really not into it. Just because I feel like, I said before, this needs to be Sutton's last season. She's not bringing anything. And Jennifer Tilly, in the confessional, when Sutton's venting about all this stuff, Jennifer, apparently she's known Sutton for over 10 years, and she knew when they were still together, and she was talking about how, like, they seem like the perfect couple on paper, but all glitters and gold because they had cracks in the relationship, and then lo and behold, the divorce and all that. But like, honestly, you know what? I think I said this before. The problem is with this show is there's too many women going through the same storyline. And Sutton is regurgitating a story. Child, not me not being worried about the continuity of it all. So the last piece of my video, my mic shut off. So I have to start this over again. And I actually did it the first time. So this is my third time doing this. And it's the next day. And I didn't notice the audio was off until I was editing. So I don't have the ring light or anything. This is my natural face. This is my natural face. Without, I don't do filters actually. It's just the lighting makes my face look a little bit nicer. So yeah, I'm about to just record this real quick before I have to hop back on work. Because I want to get this video out. Because, Beverly Hills was not that interesting enough for me to be struggling this hard when it comes to all this. But anyway, so what I was getting at with Sutton is that this is like a regurgitated story. Like, she's been broken up from Christian for a long time. And the man's paying her, okay? And clearly, he's paying her for a reason. Now we know why. Because he basically left Sutton for her best friend. And she didn't know about it. The way she found out is through her son. And so that actually explains why she hasn't let it go, Elsa let it go, but still, girl, let it go. So she's still just talking about this annulment, how emotional and everything she is about it. And then Jennifer Tilly just kind of shares more to it and says like, yeah, I met her 10 years ago when she was still with him and everything was like, outwardly, it looked like they were the golden couple, but clearly there's things going on and she was starting to see some cracks as she got closer to her. And we saw these older pictures of her where she was kind of a socialite. And side note, she looked a lot healthy. Well, not a lot healthier. She looked healthier. She did look healthier. Yeah, Sun does not look healthy, and she hasn't for a while. And I hate to put that out there, but my intrusive thoughts, I'm saying it out loud right now. I'm an Aries. I can't help it. It's a thing. Anyway, but that's kind of it when it comes to Sudden and that situation. I feel like it's just a lot of the women talking about the same thing. Most of the cast is divorced or separated or something, and it's literally the same thing over again. And it's just becoming annoying to watch. I'll just be honest with you. With that being said, let's get into Rachel and her being annoying about it too, and then Kyle and how she is about it too. We'll get into that last as kind of the final scene. Let's get into it. So in the final scene, we see that Rachel took Dorit and Kyle out, and they are basically talking about, well, it was a couple things with Rachel. So for one, she was with her family prior to the final scene, and Kyle this whole entire time has been annoying when it comes to the separation of it all, because she is the only one that is basically getting, like, her ex-husband is her best friend and still is her best friend. Like, when it comes to the dynamic of their friendship, nothing has changed, really. It's just the romantic part has changed. That's pretty much it. Let them tell it. With everyone else, it's more of a contentious situation, which in normal cases, that is what it's going to be. So I don't understand why she thinks everyone else is weird. It's you can't rate your situation and rate everyone else's the same. It's a case-to-case situation. And so Rachel's talking about how she caught her husband. Well, she didn't really catch her husband, her soon-to-be ex-husband. He confessed to her. And that's how she found out about the betrayal. And then that's when she kind of lost it. And then that was kind of the end of that. And somewhere in the conversation, she did also talk about how earlier on in their relationship, before they were engaged, I guess she actually cheated on her husband before they were engaged, and she actually ended up getting engaged the next day. And here go Kyle, the confessional, judging that. She's like, oh, that seems like that's a good lasting relationship waiting to happen. And it's like, Kyle, shut up. If it was anyone else, it would be one thing. But the way she judges things, it's like, girl, these are supposed to be your friends. I would never judge my friends like that the way you're judging your friends. And even if I was, I would keep it to myself. I wouldn't be saying that out loud. That's rude and highly disrespectful. And, pardon me, and the fact that Rachel's trying to open up to you and let you into her world, that's really messed up. But anyway, what I will say is, Kyle did have a little bit of a point. Rachel is kind of getting annoying. I'm sorry, because it's just like, girl, let it go. Not as much. I think, and honestly, it probably wouldn't be annoying if it wasn't multiple people in the situation complaining. And the thing is, she keeps saying she wants to have a hot girl summer, which, by the way, that was like back in 2018, 2019. That was when hot girl summer was a thing. And we're talking about it right now. So that's kind of just beyond me that we're still talking about hot girl summer this many years later. And everything right now, nothing that she's giving is giving hot girl summer. It's really giving that, I don't know, like in a hot girl summer, like the way I would describe that is you're zipping and zooing it. You're not thinking about any men, and not in that way, other than just hopping on it and moving to the next. That to me is hot girl summer. Like, her version of hot girl summer is her constantly complaining about her ex. I'm confused. Meg Thee Stallion would never. Okay? It's giving a country song and not a Meg Thee Stallion song. I'm just saying. I mean, both are Southern, but they're not the same type of Southern. Okay? But anyway, that really does conclude the episode. I'm sorry that this took forever for me to get out. But my audio kept messing up just little things here and there. But anyway, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion review will be up after this. I still need to watch it, but we'll get it out today. But anyway, bye.